The Dr. Disrespect situation has got to be one of the most telling dramas in the past few months that really shows the cognitive bias in people. Recently, Dr. Disrespect returned to content creation following reports that he had messaged a minor inappropriately, and his response, while bad, still managed to convince everyone on the internet that now all of a sudden he is the victim in all of this. So for those of you who don't recall, it was around June when an ex-Twitch employee by the name of Cody Connors released information claiming that Dr. Disrespect was actually banned from Twitch for sexting a minor and attempting to meet up with them at TwitchCon. A lot of smoke came out of this, a lot of misinformation came out. There was some very shoddy journalism by a couple of reporters such as Slasher, but ultimately it came out that Dr. Disrespect did indeed talk to a minor, although he didn't specify the full extent of what actually happened in those conversations. What he did say, however, is that there was in fact an individual minor back in 2017, and he did say that he did have casual mutual conversations that leaned too much in the direction of being inappropriate sometimes. It's important to take a note of some of the things he says in these tweets, because now that he's come back and tried to issue another statement, there's a lot of inconsistencies and holes with the things that he's claiming and the things that he's saying.
You didn't have any firsthand knowledge of my dispute with Twitch. You said that I got banned from Twitch because I was sexting a minor through Whisper's messages? Do you even know what the legal definition of sexting is? I do. And yeah, I used Twitch as Whispers, but trust me, I wasn't sexting anyone. You also said the word minor, Cody. I even made sure that word was emphasized in my statement, edited, etc., just to make sure these so-called journalists would pick up on it. And boy, oh boy, did they ever, champs. When you and all these so-called journalists, Cody, fired off your tweets, did any of you consider that the Twitch user may have been over the legal age of consent at the time of the messages? You didn't. Neither did any of these journalists, and neither did Twitch at the time of the ban.
Now, to a lot of Dr. Disrespect supporters, to a lot of fans, this part right here sounded like a high IQ move, like he purposely edited so that he can trick all of these journalists into running with a story that wasn't fully credible. But the sad reality is that only a gullible, biased moron would accept such a blatantly child-level deflection. This is the type of excuse a lying child would use for their mom, like, yeah, my pants fell down while I was deleting a virus. I totally didn't do anything wrong. It's simply that bad. That's not to say that I'm accusing Dr. Disrespect of being anything. I don't think he is, at least not yet, because truthfully, this situation is incredibly murky and there's no way to know who's being honest or who's lying, especially with the level of dishonesty both sides of this drama have exhibited. But it is to say that Dr. Disrespect is making some of the worst deflections ever for something he should approach with a lot more substantiation. Additionally, if the person was of age, if the person was of the legal age of consent, then what does that exactly entail? What exactly is Dr. Disrespect attempting to imply here? That he was talking to someone who in their state was the legal age of consent? That could mean, mind you, that a 35-year-old man was still talking to someone that isn't legally recognized as an adult. Let's draw a line in the sand real quick. In most states, the age of consent is anywhere between 16 and 18. However, nationally, and even internationally in most cases, an adult is recognized as an 18-year-old. The age of consent argument is nonsense. If you were talking to someone who was not an adult inappropriately, it is still morally incorrect regardless of legality. So using the law in an attempt to deflect is pointless to anyone who has a level of moral sentiment in their minds. So this counter that Dr. Disrespect made should not absolve him of the main questions at hand. How old was this person actually, and what type of conversations did you have?
You also tried to tell the world that I was trying to meet up with this user at TwitchCon. Let's set the record straight. I never intended to meet this user ever. We never made plans to meet at TwitchCon or anywhere else, and in fact, we never met in person ever. Your bullshit accusations gave false courage to other former Twitch employees to make shit up as well. These big-time publications, these journalists, these various outlets, they reported on all this based on leaks from two former Twitch employees, one of whom was supposedly on the trust and safety team. If these anonymous sources worked on the trust and safety team at the time of my Twitch suspension in 2020, then you would hope they would tell the truth. But apparently that's just too much to ask. If these former trust and safety team members, and by the way, I know exactly who they are, actually had firsthand knowledge, then what they conveniently left out is, 1, Twitch's trust and safety team, the same employees that decided to ban me, internally admitted that the whisper messages were not sexting. And 2, Twitch's trust and safety team, the same employees that decided to ban me, internally acknowledged that the whispers did not constitute child sexual abuse material CSAM. I'll say it again. Neither I nor the Twitch user exchanged any sexual graphic messages or images. Cody Connors and these other anonymous sources are trying to paint a picture that I was exchanging sexually explicit messages and photos with this Twitch user. That never happened. I even used the word inappropriate, purposely. And look at how it's defined by everyone, champs. Huh? Including these defaming articles. I'm sorry, but mutual bantering with inappropriate jokes taken out of context should have never led to me getting banned from Twitch in the first place.
The issue with this part here is that we simply don't know who's being honest. We cannot take you or these other people at face value. When you collect all of the information in the situation between your cheating scandal and being unfaithful, which happened around the same time, the editing of your tweet, the childish excuses and deflections, Connor's attempt to clout grab by using the reason you got banned in an attempt to market as banned, Slasher's trashy journalism, and fake emails, between all of these things, it is incredibly difficult to determine who is being honest in all of this. The only logical approach to this would be to release the chat logs if they're even available, but as it stands, there's just no way to take any of you at face value. As far as some of us are concerned, there is not enough here to determine which side or the other is correct, and the more you continue in this response, the worse it gets.
I mean, how would each of you look if all of your private DMs, your text messages, your chats were looked at, dissected, and taken out of context by someone who's deliberately trying to find something inappropriate in those words?
This part right here kind of got me a little bit off guard, because why would you say this? What would lead you to say something like this? Because, I mean, you're not necessarily wrong. There's probably a lot of people whose messages can be used against them. But again, that doesn't really bode too well, because it implies that potentially you may have said something that should not have been disclosed to a minor. And I'm saying potentially, and I mean very hard emphasis on potentially, or probably, or maybe, because what does this mean for Dr. Disrespect? I have to clarify, that's not to say that Dr. Disrespect did do something malicious or didn't do anything malicious. It just doesn't paint a very good picture for him. Not as much as some fans would like to believe.
And this is not a situation where a victim publicly accuses someone of wrongdoing. That never happened here. We're talking about allegations that Twitch made against me as a half-baked reason for justifying their actions of suspending and shutting down my channel. Allegations that Twitch made without even a legal analysis of whether the whisper messages were legal!
The language that he uses here also piques my curiosity, because he emphasizes legality of the Twitch messages. If one of your main complaints is that Twitch didn't investigate the legality of the messages exchanged between you and that user, does that mean that there could have potentially been something inappropriate that Twitch maybe didn't approve of you having with another person? And I'm not saying, again, that he did or didn't. It just doesn't really show too much or say too much in regards to how clean you actually are. It's just saying that there wasn't enough investigation to conclude the illegality of something based on the claims of sexual interactions with a minor.
On June 21st, 2020, my ex-Twitch partner manager learns that I exchanged whispers with the Twitch user. For years, this guy didn't do anything for me, my community, or my channel. For years, we got zero front page love on the website. We got zero support from this guy. And it was just so obvious that he carried a grudge against the two-time. So after we signed with Twitch in 2019, we asked for a new partner manager. And just a few months later, that ex-Twitch partner manager is directly involved with getting me banned. Coincidence? The Twitch user tells this ex-Twitch partner manager that they do not want to report anything to Twitch. But this ex-Twitch partner manager encourages the user and even directs them to file a report directly with Twitch, even though the user told him clearly that we never physically met anywhere and that no photographs were exchanged. On June 24th, 2020, Twitch's special operations team receives and reviews the user's report. They find no issues and determine that it did not warrant any further escalation to Twitch's law enforcement response team.
This is where things really start getting confusing, because now you're throwing out conspiracies that people were purposely attempting to sabotage your career, that people had it out to get you. At first this sounds plausible, but it doesn't really hold up when you hold this against something else Dr. Disrespect said, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. If it is true that these messages were in fact reviewed and nothing came up that would warrant an illegal exchange between you and this person, why were these messages brought up in the first place? Again, was this person a minor or not? Because you said they were in your initial response, but now you're saying that they were the age of consent in this response and said you put minor to bait people, which again is a poor excuse. Why would they have any reason to suspect you? Because of some grudge? If this is so true, then you need something to back this claim, unfortunately, because the information at hand makes the entire situation incredibly murky, and the language you're using also does not directly imply that the person you're referring to was an adult, but rather of legal age, which could mean 3 different ages, which brings up this redundancy.
But that partner manager, oh boy, did he had it out. He had it out for the 2-time. He finds out that no further action will be taken, so what does he do? He personally escalates the report to a friend on the Twitch's LER team. The LER team, remember, that's the Twitch's law enforcement response team. June 25th, the LER analyst pulls the entirety of the whisper messages and begins discussing them with his director of the LER team. Mind you, this director is on vacation at that time and does not have access to their computer or work files. The LER analyst cherry picks and sends a few targeted excerpts out of context from the whisper messages to this director. Now, if you do this, you can make anyone's messages look inappropriate, even when they aren't.
What was in those messages exactly that would warrant someone to take them out of context? Because even if they were out of context, you as a 35-year-old man talking to someone who potentially may be 18 years younger than you, being the face of the Twitch platform as you say, should not be exchanging inappropriate anything with a minor in any sense. Also, why was the idea of you guys meeting also constantly brought up? Per your remarks, this individual was questioned about meeting you somewhere. Where did this come from? Either you're not being fully transparent, or these people really did have a plan to maliciously ruin your life.
Within less than 1 hour, this LER analyst and his director have made the decision to suspend me from Twitch. Twitch submits a report to NCMEC. You guys all read those little articles, huh? The NCMEC. Twitch submits that report. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Guess what? As far as I know, and over 4 years have passed, they didn't do anything with the report. As far as I know, they didn't escalate Twitch's report to law enforcement. Mind you, the same people that made this decision admit internally that the messages did not constitute sexting. The same people that made this decision at Twitch admit internally that the messages did not warrant any child sexual abuse material charge. Twitch makes this decision to terminate my contract and ban me while admitted they did not perform any legal analysis of whether the messages exchanged were illegal in any way. Twitch makes this decision to terminate my contract and ban me while admitting that they never investigated the age of consent in the jurisdiction where the user's messages were sent and received. Twitch makes this decision to terminate my contract and ban me without ever interviewing me, the user, or any other third party, including the partner manager. It's fucking unbelievable!
I mean, yes, you can go on this giant diatribe. You can say all of this about how you didn't sext a minor, at least not legally speaking, and you can say that this person was at the age of consent in their jurisdiction, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't talk inappropriately with a minor, something that you admitted to doing. I should clarify, borderline inappropriate messages, sorry. I find the particular word uses and emphasis that Dr. Disrespect uses here a little bit concerning, concerning. Well, not necessarily concerning, but more so manipulative in my opinion, because you're emphasizing words such as legal, jurisdiction, age of consent to attempt to paint this picture that what you did wasn't illegal, to sort of mask and detract from the idea that you potentially may have actually spoken to a minor, which again, you have admitted to. While your fans may take you at your word, and while your fans may accept this explanation for everything, that doesn't mean that the normal person should still not be a little bit concerned with the actions that you may have committed in the past, because you're not taking accountability for anything, and you're not fully explaining what actually happened either. It's he said, she said.
I'm not going to get into every detail regarding my legal case, but these former Twitch employees that claim to have firsthand knowledge, they just don't have a clue. They didn't report any facts. The judge in the case determined that the whispers were not illegal. So then why did Twitch use these messages against me? Why did Twitch treat the doc so differently from their other streamers? I mean, outside of the obvious. I mean, just take a look at me, right? Unfiltered. The realest motherfucker in this industry. 6'8", gorgeous, athletic, successful, college degree, college athlete, bourbon business, gaming studio, beautiful family. And trust me, we've worked hard for over a decade to improve as a person, a husband, and father, and to get where we're at today. I mean, I'm in such a good place today. And all these people, they all act like they're just so perfect.
Again, this is just a very poor attempt at deflection. Just because nothing illegal was found doesn't mean that something wrong didn't occur. This is just you attempting to use certain words to try to appeal to your fans that are obviously going to accept what you're saying at face value, to try to deter from the fact that maybe potentially you have done something wrong. Additionally, you try to propagate this conspiracy theory that these people were out to get you because they're envious. That sounds completely irrational. Why would they sacrifice millions of dollars to remove you from their company if they didn't suspect that at least something was wrong in one way or another? Apparently, according to Dr. Disrespect, it's because they wanted to phase them out to bring other people in that they were attempting to pay for a while coming in from Mixer. Whether this is true or not is completely up to speculation, or whether you want to take him at his word, but again, it's he said, she said. And this brings me back to the thing that I said that we were going to touch on a little bit later, because now it's approaching.
The reality is, they wanted to cut down the doc. Plain and simple. Take a look at some of these horrendous acts of Twitch streamers that were never banned. I've got some examples right here. Example number 1. A streamer that frequently used the N-word while publicly streaming, which constitutes a violation of Twitch's policies if accompanied by hateful intent. Twitch scheduled a meeting with the streamer to ascertain his intent to determine whether his conduct was a violation of Twitch's policies, ultimately determining it was not a breach of Twitch's policies. Why wasn't I called into a meeting? Why wasn't my intent taken into consideration, champs? Example number 2. Streamer was reported for discussing doing things with deceased animals and discussing pedophilia, all while live streaming. Never suspended, but instead given a multi-million-dollar contract. Example number 3. Streamer was reported for a sexually explicit stream involving children and telling children to send Snapchats of them playing with themselves. Never suspended, but instead, given a multi-million-dollar contract.
So if people were really out to get you inside the company, if people were really trying to ruin your career, to ruin your life and make false allegations to bring you down, if people really wanted to remove you from Twitch so they can make room for other people that they were attempting to acquire, why did they not just remove these people that you failed to mention the names of? Because if these people actually committed these heinous things that you're accusing them of, such as doing terrible things to deceased animals or asking minors to send explicit Snapchats, why not just name them? Because as far as as we're concerned. I also find it incredibly peculiar how nobody has actually identified who those streamers he's referring to are, because in cases where you're talking about somebody tangentially and the stuff they've done, you can sort of recognize who that person is because they're infamous for those particular issues. But nobody seems to recognize who exactly Dr. Disrespect is talking about. So in my opinion, this really muddies the water, and I feel like it's an attempt for Dr. Disrespect to say, oh, they got me for this, why didn't they get these guys if they actually cared about protecting their community? It's an attempt to distract from him, an attempt to distract his fans from questioning things that he may have potentially done. As debate bros would say, it's an appeal to emotion. It's to attempt to appeal to people's sort of pearl-clutching behavior, because they would rather look at that than look at Dr. Disrespect. It just doesn't make sense from a logical perspective. If these people really did do something wrong, then why not remove them to make room for all of these mixer contracts that they were attempting to accomplish if they did something far worse than whatever you did?
But because of you, Cody, we just lost. Fuck, man. Unfortunately, we have to lay off people from Midnight Society. Right? Because of you, Cody.
To me, this seems like an appeal to emotion to again distract his fans, but I will look at it from both sides and say that if Dr. Disrespect really was slandered, and if he really did have to lay off people from Midnight Society because lack of funding, then that's very unfortunate. It should not have gone to those lengths, and if that is the case, Cody Connor Slasher should be held accountable for their misreporting of information.
For all these doc haters out there too, oh man. The ones that project and project and project and project and worry about everyone else's problems, right? I can't understand that mindset. I could care less. We've always stayed in our lane. But somehow, some way, these people, they just get in our lane. For all you doc haters, I'm sure you'll dissect all of this and still find a way to publicly criticize me. Do what you need to do. I'll say this isn't for you. This was for my team. Today, my community, my friends, la familia that have supported me. And I'm not denying the exchange of whispers, champs. I'm not denying that to all of you out there. It looks bad. I have no way of knowing if the Twitch user thought our exchange of whispers was inappropriate. If it was, I apologize. All I know is that I never did what Twitch, Cody Connors, or the public is claiming that I did. I'm not saying anything more about any of this, right? Unless I need to, because trust me, I have more I haven't disclosed.
Unfortunately, yes, people are going to criticize you the same way people criticize those who accused you, because ultimately people want transparency from those who are in the center of attention, whether it's the accuser or the accusee. This is where I have to clarify. This entire video isn't to say that Dr. Disrespect is guilty or not, it's to say that we do not have enough information to decide on one or the other, and none of the people in this situation are entirely credible, especially when you do take the time to dissect the words, available information, incidents, events, etc., etc., etc. What we do know is that per Doctor's own words, he did talk to a minor, but to what extent? Him saying that he emphasized the word minor to get journalist attention doesn't particularly mean anything at all. The bait and switch excuse is again childish and incredibly silly. No one with a brain will believe something like that. Additionally, if Dr. Disrespect didn't do anything wrong, why not be more transparent from the get? Why not provide evidence? Why not make a strong response immediately if you're in the right? It doesn't add up, unfortunately, and there is more to suggest that you did talk to a minor in a way that you possibly shouldn't have. Even if you did not intend to meet this minor, even if you did not intend to sexually interact with this minor, it still does not mean that you are completely absolved of the criticism. It just means that now we have to understand the level of severity. If you have evidence to prove that you are not a malicious actor who didn't inappropriately interact with a minor, then you need to bring that to light immediately. But again, as it stands, as far as we know, per your initial statement and things you said throughout this response, you talked to someone who was of the legal age of consent, not necessarily an adult, which doesn't excuse the fact that you still may have potentially done something that isn't morally correct. That being said, either Dr. Disrespect takes accountability for his actions if applicable, which he hasn't, or he proves his innocence. In my personal opinion, I don't think Dr. Disrespect is out of the mud. I don't think he deserves to be so easily led back into the community without fully presenting the facts and information. I believe that he came back fully knowing that if he went on a giant diatribe, deflecting everything and obfuscating the information at hand, making all of these suggestions, he wouldn't have to answer the pressing matter of disclosing the evidence or more information. Of course, his fans would allow this to happen, because their cognitive bias would exempt Dr. Disrespect from properly addressing the allegations at all. That's all I got for today. Later.